starting now.
Welcome back. Back again in the hotel room, our makeshift studio. I'm here with a special guest that has traveled from a little tropical island in the Pacific. He's a military veteran, does digital animation, but creates movies. An avid business leader and a semi-pro professional surfer.
I wish.
Getting there. In his professional career, has worked on over 30 feature films, to include San Andreas, Pirates of the Caribbean, Fight Club, The Matrix, and various TV shows like Lost, and has met and worked with some amazing actors: Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Johnny Depp, Vanessa Hutchinson, the one, the only, the coolest guy I've met, like, so far on the show. Kai Bovaird.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
What's
That's
up?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about your how you got in the TV business, what you know about the TV business. A lot of people want to get in the TV business. Movie business is probably the right way to say it.
Yeah, movie. Definitely distinct delineation, the TV and movies. I mean, they're coming closer together, but
Right.
with some of the productions now with Netflix and different, companies like that doing online streaming, but there's definitely different courses of thought and also direction with your careers if you go film business or TV. It's
Yeah.
kind of different.
And then going from movies, how to actually make them. We'll talk a little bit about business and how you got there, how people can get there in the future, and just like, whatever the story behind it. So thanks for joining us on episode 9 of A Cup of Simple Guys. So you're a military vet.
Yeah.
You did that for a while now. What'd you do in the military before you got into the movie business?
So that's the unique part too. For 4 years, I worked as a sniper in the U.S. Army. First for a 2nd Ranger Battalion and then 3-9 Infantry. Very unique job, very unique skill set. Doesn't really translate over to a lot of civilian careers unless you want to be like SWAT team or something, you know. But when I first went in the military, I thought I was just going to do 20 years. My dad was a veteran, and I heard a lot of stories about the Army, and so through high school, that was what I had planned to do. In my mind, I was like, I'm just going to do 20 years in the Army, and that's that. So I graduated from high school. 4 days later, I was on a plane to Fort Benning, Georgia. Shaved my head, got in. I was there. Basic AIT, went to airborne school. I'm crazy, I always volunteer for stuff, and there was this unit called Ranger Battalion, which ignorance is bliss, I guess, because I had no idea what they did. I just, one day they're like, hey, come watch this video, and if you're interested, we'll sign you up. So I watched the video, it looked pretty cool. They do a lot of like really cool missions. And then, so in airborne school, I finished airborne school. I went to, it used to be called RIP back then, now it's called RASP. But it was called Ranger Indoctrination Program.
Yeah.
Made it through that somehow. I don't know how. I just, again, like I said, ignorance is bliss. I was just taking one day at a time, 1 foot forward, 1 foot in front of the other. And we were losing a lot of guys every day just guys quitting. On average, about 6 guys a day would quit that course. So we started with about 120, our original class. We graduated with 40 guys. So it was pretty hefty attrition rate.
And it's when you graduated all that, you became a sniper. Did you do any? Were you part of any like big operations?
So we were at that time. We were doing a lot of some stuff I can't talk about right now in this setting. But we were doing at the time the U.S. was doing a lot of counter-narcotics missions.
Oh, like this is like 90s.
In the 90s, okay. Yeah. So I know I'm old. I don't look that old. It's the Filipino side. It keeps me looking young. Thank you very much. We're good for till about 55, and then.
Wow, you're 55?
No, usually, us Filipinos will look pretty, better than our age until about 55, and then something happens. You wake up one day and you got tons of gray hair and you look really old.
Right.
But anyways, so I thought that's what I thought I was going to do, right? But at the same time, I wanted to move my career ahead. I enjoyed being a sniper a lot. I went to all Army sniper competitions, Ranger game competitions. Went to a lot of events and won some awards, and I was really thankful for that position. But then I wanted to do more. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot, and an Apache attack helicopter. And, And so I started that process. But because the op tempo means you're busy all the time. For those civilians that don't know what that means, but you're busy. So we go on missions, come back, and so it got to a point where I realized that my goals weren't going to be achieved. It was that mission. It was mission first, and what I wanted to do on my own goals. I wasn't going to meet those goals. So it came to the end of my initial contract was 4 years, and I said, you know what, this isn't really working out. I was a little disgruntled. I had towards the end. I had a couple of kind of not really good, the best leaders. They weren't trying to help me out. I felt like they were kind of subverting my mission, to try to better myself. I said, that's it. I'm not gonna re-enlist. So my 4-year contract ended, and while I was in, I met this guy who lived down in the Bay Area. We're still really tight friends now. He lives in Australia now, but at the time he lived in the Bay Area. So the reason I bring him up is because I needed a plan B. I didn't have a plan B because my plan A, which was the only plan, was gonna be 20 years in the military. Now all of a sudden I need a plan B.
And so you're staring down a sniper scope, and now you're kind of thinking. So are you thinking staring down like a camera at a sniper scope, or not really?
Well, I mean, honestly, there's one thing that I learned in sniping, and one thing that's carried through is extreme patience, because sometimes when you're doing sniper stalks, which means that's you're crawling with your equipment up to a target. Sometimes it'll take you 6 hours to move 100 meters. Mm. So you're moving so slow, you're so low to the ground, you can see ants passing you up, but in that you learn the extreme of what your body can handle, both physically and emotionally, and mentally, and so that is carried through now, into as I left the Army, I took that with me. Those skill sets, now sniping didn't correlate to, but extreme patience did. And also being methodical and figuring out a way, just saying, yes, I'm gonna make it happen, and figuring out the plan afterwards. It's no, I'm gonna make this happen. So I immediately say, okay, I'm gonna go to school, and I'm gonna get in the film business. And because before I got in the Army, I dabbled around with some home videos and movies, and I'd bring friends together, and we'd stay up all night making movies and
America's funniest home videos.
Yeah, something like that, just stupid stuff. I remember one year when I was a kid, I went around. It was the day after Halloween. I went around all my friends' houses and I collected all their Halloween costumes. I'm you don't need it now, and I collected, and then I'd create these creatures with them, and we'd have creature, a creature landed in the backyard, a UFO landed, and everybody's creature, but it's really a hodgepodge of all these costumes that I merged together to make this creature, and then just things like that, weird stuff, I mean, at the time it was just a way to, exercise my creativity. So I thought back to those times, and I said, I had a good time back then, so maybe I should do the film business, and that's kind of what I thought. And I had this friend in the Bay Area, and I ended up calling him up, and I said, hey, I applied for this school in San Francisco called the Academy of Art and they accepted me, but I'm not starting till the fall, so I need somewhere to cruise for a few months. And he said, "Come on down."
Couch surfing.
Couch surfing.
All right, here we
So
go.
yeah,
So 4 years in the military, come out like complete badass.
Yeah.
Put your backpack on and
Yeah.
head down to California.
That's it. Down in California. Never been. I did. The first time I lived in the Bay Area. It was a awesome experience. A lot of cool people I met.
So Bay Area, is that like LA?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay.
So San Francisco Bay Area, and that's where the Academy of Art is in San Francisco. So at the time, the reason I chose that school is because at the time there weren't a lot of schools that had visual effects and animation programs. This is in the 90s, so it's like very few. Now, pretty much every school has some sort of art or media something going on, so. But back then it was not a lot, and that was one that I said, I applied for a few, but that one was like the best one. It had a good program I could use the GI Bill and just get plugged in, and so I did have to submit a portfolio, so I submitted this like kind of junk portfolio, and it had, a lot of my old kid stuff, and they accepted me, so I went to school there, and that's where I started learning animation. The trade, sitting on the box and learning, keyframes and rigging characters and making, 3D animated characters. And during that time also, I met this old guy who had been in the special effects business, in the movie business. And he counseled me, he's like, you know what? Because at the time I was like, when I was in the military, we did a lot of explosives work. So I knew how to blow stuff up. I thought, I'll go into special effects, because I knew that. And so he's like, no, just do the computers. Computers are the way of the future. And so he's the one that kind of convinced me to stay on the computer side.
So special effects and animation is two different things. But it makes like the same type of product.
Well, okay, so that's good you brought that up, because some people they intermingle, they mix them up, right? So there's special effects and there's visual effects. Visual effects is digital, everything digital, where you see someone stand in front of a green screen and they're acting in front of nothing. You have to take the green screen out and composite them in front of something. That's called visual effects. The medium is visual effects. Special effects is you're actually, you ever see the guy that is in a car and then he's driving down the road and all of a sudden he hits another car and it rolls over and explodes and the guy comes out and he's on fire. He's really in a fire suit, but the way they film it, that's all special effects. So that's actually something tangible that you can...
So there's real life stuff happening.
Real life stuff, yeah. They're the ones that also do like the squibs, they call them, when you fire a machine gun and it looks like bullets are hitting everywhere, where there are these special, squibs that they have that blow out and look like bullets hitting and stuff. So that's special effects. Or they do smoke. Even special effects guys do rain. When the actors are walking in rain, the special effects guy rigged that rain, And so the digital effects, the visual side of it, the visual effects is all computer based. So that's kind of where I stayed in that, And so I'm learning the computer program, learning the software.
And this old guy, and did you meet him at a bar or?
I just met him through they put these networking events together at school, so you can actually meet people that are in the business. And he was just a friend of a friend that had just wanted to come check out Academy of Art. And so so it was kind of a nice setup, because at the time I was like 50-50. I didn't know. So I do special effects, I visual effects, I don't know. And I didn't know that world, Again, ignorance is bliss. I'm just going for it. I'm going to say yes first, figure it out later, So then that's what I stayed. I stayed there for a few years. So in my junior year, what happened was I have an auntie who lives in LA, and I love her to death. She's very influential in my film career, because I called her and I said, hey, I want to come down to LA and look around. I'd never been to LA before. I think, I went there as a kid. We went to Disneyland once. It wasn't even, so it wasn't. So I said, you know what, I want to come down and check out LA and look at the Hollywood sign. And someday I hope I'll work there. And that type of thing. So she's like, all right, hey, grab your stuff, come down. You can, hang out at my house for the summer and check out LA. That was the plan, right? So I went down to visit her. And then during that time, I started checking out companies, just checking them out, seeing what the process was.
So you're in San Francisco.
By the way,
you live in
I forgot we have to start the film over. No.
So
speaking of LA,
we have Casa Amigos. So let's have a drink. For some of the best tequila in the nation. So let me get some of that. Boom. Represent. You already got it.
You top me off.
Top you off.
There you go. Okay, thanks.
Some of the best tequila, but
So when I was down there, she said, you know what?
So wait, you're in San Francisco, and
so
then
I'm in San Francisco full time.
You're visiting Auntie in LA.
Yeah, I have an apartment there. I actually prepaid my rent for the whole summer. So I was intending to. So that's my junior year. So it's summer between the junior and senior year of college.
Yeah.
So I was intending to go back there at the end of the summer and I prepaid my rent. All my stuff's there. My surfboards are there. Everything's up there, right? So I go to LA. My auntie convinces me. She's like, you know what? Studios have any kind of job, and it didn't dawn on me and she's like, yeah, there's all kinds of people that support a studio. Why don't you just go in there and see what they have to offer, So there's this company that I've had my eye on for a while now. Since I started at Academy of Art, there's a company, top 5 companies in the world, and this one is at the time, it was number 1. It's called Digital Domain.
Digital Domain.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Digital Domain has a huge track record. They did old school. They did Terminator, Titanic. Tons of crazy visual effects movies for years. Multiple Academy Award winning, people. So I went there. My auntie encouraged me to just go there and ask them for a job. So I did that. I drove up to the front gate. It was the funniest thing. There's the security guard at the time was this Jamaican guy.
So this was the first place you tried to apply for?
No, I've been going to a few, but I was already starting to get discouraged because I'd go up to a place and go, hey, I want more information on how to get a job here, and they'd just be like, kind of shoot me away, like, oh, just leave your reel, your demo reel. That's your calling card. This is before. Now people put it on YouTube or have it linked to your website. But,
or like you have to send an email or something.
Yeah.
Probably someone's not going to watch it.
Yeah, but back then you drop off your physical reel. You go, this is my my best work. Your reel, a real reel.
Oh my gosh.
But so I drove up to this gate, and the security guard's like, can I help you? It's thick Jamaican accent, and I was like, well, I'm here looking for a job, and the guy's like, I don't know if he felt sorry for me or what, but he was just like, he couldn't believe that I was like literally driving up to the front gate of this, Academy Award studio.
Where were you driving?
At the time I had like this Subaru Outback. I had a Jeep. I got rid of my Jeep when I got in the Army. I had a Jeep, and then I something happened to it, and then I ended up getting this Subaru like Outback, whatever, station wagon car,
Okay.
And so I pull up, and I'm looking for a job, and then so the guy said, all right, I'm gonna go get someone, and you just wait right here. And so we went into this room, and he brought this lady out, and she interviewed me. She's like, I told her I'm looking for a job, I'm a veteran, going to school for animation, and and she's like, okay, well, she actually did an on-the-spot interview. Sat me down in this room. She's like, hey, tell me your story, tell me more about you. So I'm talking to her, and then the question comes up. It always comes up in an interview. She's like, well, if we hire you, when could you start? Right. Mm-hmm. So my default answer. Now again, at San Francisco, I had planned to go back. I prepaid my rent. I was planning to go back. So my default answer is I tell her, oh, I can start as soon as possible.
But was she interviewing you for animation?
Just interviewing me. She didn't have a specific job. She didn't tell me. She just said, I want to talk to you. It was kind of that type of informal thing. And her name is Lisa De La Garza. I remember this lady. She was super awesome, like Italian lady. And she was so she interviews me, and then she's okay, thanks for coming, and I look over during the interview. I look over and I see this. It's like this big, kind of like this huge desk, and it's full of animation reels. They get 100. They were at the time they get 100 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like the premiere space. And I was looking at that. I'm like feeling super intimidated. I'm like, I feel like I'm wasting her time, wasting my time. So I leave the interview, right? And I get in my car and I get ready to get on the 10 freeway to drive the long way back up. My auntie lived in the valley. The long way back into the valley, and my phone rings. And she goes, hey, Kai, this is Lisa. I just interviewed you. And during the interview, you said you could start as soon as possible. And well, what happened is we're working on 5 films right now, and we're really shorthanded. And we need someone like you. Can you start now? So I just, the very next exit I took, turned the car around, and I clocked in, just spun around. And then it was in the afternoon. It was already like 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Hearts racing. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. I'm like, what did I just do? And then I literally signed the quick paperwork, the new hire paperwork, and clock in, and I start that day.
Yeah.
And so my auntie, I go home, and my auntie's like, hey, what happened today? It's been, where are you? I was like, I got a job. And that's how it started, you know? So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's how I got my first job in the business. I was working as like a production assistant / like runner / gopher / whatever weird job they wanted you to do, you do it.
So, sniper, professional sniper,
yeah.
running coffee.
Yeah. For
big,
film studio.
For film studio.
That's what I'm saying. Do whatever it takes to get the mission done. Do whatever it takes. You know?
So it's how long did you work as an assistant? Like what kind of jobs were you doing?
So it was everything. One time, they're like, "Hey, take this script up to this house in Malibu Hills."
Some random house.
Okay, just some random house. I pull up and it's one of those ones. The driveway is like a half mile long. You know, like wow, this is a massive house. I pull up, no one's around. I'm like, where's everyone? So I get out of my car.
Is this still in LA or is this now
This
back?
is in LA.
This is in LA now.
So I moved. So
so schools in San Diego?
No, San Francisco,
San
the Bay
Francisco,
Area. Yeah.
Bay Area.
Oh, so that was a funny thing. So I call. So right when I got the job, I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So I called my roommate and I said, consider this my notice to move out. You know, and he's like, what? And he didn't even believe me. He couldn't even believe me, and because he was actually. I met this guy surfing, but he was actually an instructor at the Academy of Art, and he was renting me a room. And he actually had been trying to get a job at Digital Domain for years. So when I called him, I said, oh, I'm out, and I got a job. He's like, no, you didn't. And he thought I was messing with him, you know. And I'm like, no, I'm moving to LA. And so, but I had already prepaid my rent, so you know So I ended up I just went, on one weekend I drove up there, grabbed all my stuff, and went back down to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool, and then I was just doing everything. So like back to that story about the script, I brought the script to this house, and I walk around, typical kind of like this director comes out, and this girl this girl that's next to his pool, because I walk around the back of his house, and there's this big pool, and there's a girl laying out. I'm like, oh, she's pretty hot, you know, like whoa, what's going on? And then this director comes out, and he's like. And then so he comes out and he's like
stacks of cash everywhere.
No, actually it's funny because I gave him the script. He goes, "Hey, you want to see something?" And I'm like, "Okay." So he takes me around to the far side of his house, and he has all these pot plants, these marijuana plants, like just. And I'm like, "What?" It was like in an old school like Cheech and Chong movie or something like this. Yeah. So I'm like, "What?" It was just the funniest thing to see that out there. And then so yeah, I was just like a gopher / production, whatever you know. One time I was working on the movie. I'm drawing a blank right now. It had George Clooney in it.
Ocean 11.
No, he was like this southern, or he's like this bayou type guy.
Not sure. Well,
anyways,
that's okay.
So the reason I bring that up is because one of the types of jobs that they would have you do is like, okay, we forgot this. This has to go on set. They're at Universal Studios, stage 16. They're waiting for you. Take this now. So you're like racing through LA traffic. You know, I learned LA like the back of my hand now. Like all the shortcuts, better than the locals. You know, so you drive up and everyone's just standing there waiting for you. You know, like, here it is. You know,
and what is it? What is it like?
It was a model to a building they were getting ready to destroy, but they forgot the main part, the door of it. You know, they're like, we couldn't shoot it without this. You know, so things like that. You see random weird stuff. Sometimes it's like, go get some coffee. You know, like.
Yeah. But now I'm kind of wondering, what movie is this? Like, what did George Clooney do?
So it was like he was like this. It was like three brothers, and there was this. I can't believe I forget the name of the movie. I'm gonna have to look it up.
That's okay. You have your phone?
No, it's over there.
It's fine.
So anyways.
So you're doing this for a few months or like 9 months.
I'm doing this for 9 months.
And are you still doing digital? Because you were in school, so did you drop school?
Yeah, so I dropped school. Because you know what?
Signed up for school and
I dropped. Because you know what? I'll tell you, like, when opportunities like that come, you know, especially when I'm at school and I see, like, for example, my old landlord, right? He had been trying to work. He was an instructor at that school and had been trying to get a job at Digital Domain for years. Yeah. And couldn't get in. That's how hard it was to get in that company. So when this opportunity came, I'm like, okay, I make this tactical decision here. I'm gonna go for this opportunity. Yeah. You know, I can always go back to school, but this opportunity is a once in a lifetime thing, and I'm gonna take it. So I did that, and so at that time there wasn't a lot of off the shelf animation software though, like there is now. You know, so a lot of it was like custom written code. So this company had the custom written code, right? That a lot of stuff was custom written in house.
For specifically...
for their animation, their different tools that they have, yeah. So what they had this training room. So even if you were a gifted animator that came from, say, like, I don't know, like DreamWorks or anything, you'd still have to go through their training program to learn their software. That's how it used to be back in the day. And so they had this training room with tons of tutorials. I mean, just all this information, right, to train animators their way, you know. So what I do is I clock out every night. I go in the training room. I'd sit there for hours, put on my headphones and just jam out. Sometimes I'd come out like 2, 3 in the morning, like, oh, what's going on? And then, you know, I was just learning their software and learning. And even on the weekends, I'd take my surfboard, go surf in Venice for a little bit, go across the street, go to Digital Domain, and I'd sit there all day long. Go out for a lunch, come back, sit there all day, every day, training on my off time, you know. And then about 9 months later, one of the producers stopped me and he's like, hey, I always see your car in the parking lot. You live around here, you know, Venice is hard to park, right? So he's like, you live around here, you just leave your car here? And I was like, no.
So it's like a city area, or is it like a suburb area?
It's just right by the beach, so it's really packed in
Venice
there.
is right. Okay.
Yeah, so Venice Beach, California. So I told him the story. I said, no, I'm just learning. You know, I'm learning your way. You know, it's the tools you are and stuff like that. So by that time, I was a production assistant. I worked on Fight Club. I worked on, that's in the main of the movie. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? That's the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, so the George Clooney one. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? And a bunch of other movies like that. So I was working, but as a production assistant, right? And then So
did you run into Brad Pitt on Fight Club?
Yeah, because he's on set.
Yeah.
So then it came to the point where this producer stopped me and he was talking to me and he said, so what's your deal? You know, and I said, well, I told him the abbreviated version. You know, I went to school, but I want to work in the... And he said, you know what, we're kind of shorthanded on my crew. Would you like to come on my crew and work on my crew? And I can give you, you know, some entry-level visual effects jobs, you know? And I can just talk to your manager and move you over on Monday. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, so he moved me on his show. So the first movie I actually worked on was X-Men as an animator. And I animated Wolverine's claws. You know, and just motion tracking them out, you know, because his hands are moving around, right? So you got to motion track them on, and then there's keyframed animation for it. And then also there's a sequence where they fight on top of the Statue of Liberty, and it's exploding, you know, and so I'm motion tracking all that, and so those are a lot of the projects I worked on early on, right?
So when we see Wolverine, so this is X-Men Wolverine.
It's like the original X-Men.
Okay.
So yeah, so an old school one, but it's got whenever his claws come out though, you know, and he's like fighting, yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, I was the claw guy for a little while, you know. And so I was just thankful for those opportunities, you know, like he gave me an opportunity to start on his show, and then after that I just went from that show, they rolled me onto the next show, the next show.
And you're getting like better and better.
And learning more stuff, and then, but then always on the box, right? Meaning I'm working, you know, behind a computer, you know, 12, 14 hours a day doing animation. On the box, yeah. So you're in a dark room, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then, but Digital Domain at the time, Scott Ross was the CEO, and it was just such a fun time, you know. And I remember we used to have some really cool parties. Like they had this patio, the digital patio. We'd have like parties out there, and they'd bring in like a keg, and they'd bring in like, it would have like they had a tiki bar, and someone would volunteer to be the bartender that night. And it was just a really fun time.
These would be like random parties, or you'd be celebrating random things.
You just every Friday. It was almost like just a release, because you're working so many hours, you know, and you're, you know, it's just like getting to know people, and it was just like it was a safe space to kind of like get to know your coworkers. Mm-hmm. You know, it was pretty fun.
So, as you're working on these movies, as we've mentioned, Brad Pitt, you have to like run into other like very famous people.
Yeah.
And what's it like to for not going from just a normal person, a sniper, looking at people from a scope, to you know, being around people that are, you know, well known, and then what's that like compared to their digital life that we see like in magazines or whatever, and then compared to like spending time with them in real life?
Yeah, you'd be surprised that the humility that is there. It's not like what I even thought when I first, you know, got in the business. So I transitioned from being the guy, the animator in the dark little room, and then I started coming out on set with some of the supervisors, being their assistant, right? So being on set, setting up tracking markers and doing all this stuff on set, but liaison in between the production and the post house. And eventually I kind of worked into working as a visual effects supervisor, sometimes data wrangler, which is like taking cameras and measurements and scanning things with LiDAR scanners. And so when I started getting on set, I was meeting these actors, interacting with them every day, you know. And you're on a crew, you know, it's people don't realize, they see the glamour stuff, but they don't realize that you work your butt off in a movie. You know, you're talking, you know, 3 to 6 months working super long hours. But the thing is, you're working tight, really close with other people, including the actors and the crew and everyone. You build this rapport. It's almost like you're a family. It's the end of the movie often feels to me like how like the end of high school felt. You know, like you know all the idiosyncrasies of everyone there. You know the flaws of people. You know. So
hold on, Alexa, pause. Alexa, turn off. So you're saying, you know, the idiosyncrasies, like, okay, can just continue?
So kind of like, so that feeling like when you leave high school, you know, some guys dated, you know, they had a bad breakup or something, but there's history there. You know the history because you've built that rapport. That's kind of how it feels like on a film set. You know people's backstories. You talk, I mean, hours and hours and hours you're working with them. You talk about their families. You talk about this, that's, you know. And so the actors are the same way. They're there to complete a mission. You know, everyone's there, the same team. So most actors that I've worked with treat everyone just like we're all equal because we're there to complete a mission. You know.
Yeah.
And so some of the biggest actors, you'd be surprised. Some of the biggest ones, you think they're like, oh, they're making millions. They probably don't talk to anyone or whatever. You know, but no, they're actually really cool people. You know, like one example I had when I worked on Pirates of the Caribbean. This movie, the version was on Stranger Tides, Pirates of the Caribbean. I worked with Johnny Depp, and that guy, you know, I wasn't a Johnny Depp fan before that. I'll be honest with you. You know, I respect him because he's done a lot of stuff, but I wasn't like a fan, you know, until I worked with him face to face. And when he would come on set, he would become Jack Sparrow, and he would stay in character the whole time. Even when we broke for lunch, he was still Jack Sparrow. Until the end of the day, when we wrap at the end of the day, then he would go back to Johnny Depp.
He just takes off the look,
it
and
was
all
amazing.
of a sudden he's just a completely different person.
I never, there was times when I forgot that it was Johnny Depp, and I just thought it was Jack Sparrow.
So is acting? So when he's acting, he becomes a completely different person in every aspect.
Yeah, his mannerisms, his speech, the way, I mean, everything he does is that character that he's going to become. You know, so I from that one movie alone, my respect for him went through the roof. And I was like, man, that was an amazing actor. Yeah. To see it in front of your eyes. You know, you see him walk on set. He gets out of his Cadillac Escalade. He's got a security team with him. He comes on. He's Johnny Depp. And then as he comes in, as soon as he gets ready. He starts. You know, he goes in costumes. They start getting ready. And when they want to start blocking, getting ready for rehearsals in the morning, he's now Jack Sparrow. And he does not break character, you know. So those are really cool moments, you know, when you get to meet. So people like that are really cool.
Let's take a break right now, and we'll continue on with Jack Sparrow.
Alexa, set 30-minute timer.
30 minutes, starting now.
So we're Johnny Depp. He gets really into the acting. One of the questions that we got from our viewers, how much extra do actors make when they're doing a peeing or pooping scene?
That's a good question. Well, they don't really do peeing or pooping scenes. They pretend. They're actors. So they're not, but I can say that the stunt guys though, you know, there's been a movie where, like Pirates of the Caribbean, there's a scene where in the story, you know, Johnny Depp's character is supposed to jump off this big waterfall. So it's obviously not him; it's his stunt double, right? Doing this jump, and every jump he's making $1,000 every single time. Every jump. So for him, they're like, oh, we didn't catch it right. Let's do it again. He's like, all right, goes back to the top of the falls, does another jump. You know, so every single jump, that's an extra $1,000. You know, so They can add up.
Those are high.
They're high, and they're not for the faint of heart. You know, you got to know what you're doing. You know, you get hurt. But,
pain.
But those stunt doubles, they make really good money. Dwayne's stunt double is a good friend of mine, Tanawai Reed. He's a local boy for
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, his stunt double. His name is Tanawai Reed, and he's from Oahu. You know, and he does some awesome work. You know, but he gets hurt from time to time. You know, so but he's doing all like when DJ is who we call him. So when DJ is doing all his work, like Fast and Furious stuff, it's actually Tanawai doing all the driving, you know. So
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, everybody calls him DJ.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, on set he's called DJ. You know, so I think it was cool because the last movie I worked with him. Actually, the second to last one I worked with him.
He just came out with his energy drink. It's also from the island, like Mahalo or something like that.
No, I think it's like called Tao or something like that.
Tao.
Yeah. So he's always, and he has a tequila drink.
Tequila as well. Yeah.
And he was talking to me he's the one that got me drinking tequila, by the way. He's the one. I was like, he's talking to me because we were talking. He was like tequila. So he was talking to me. He's like, oh, you know, blue agave is so good for you, and blah blah. He kept talking, you know. I'm like, and so he's the one that actually kind of got me because I used to never drink tequila before, and then when he was talking about how great tequila was, I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a try.
Give it a try.
Yeah, but yeah. So he does a lot of it's so that. You know,
he works hard. I follow him on Instagram.
It is amazing. Like that guy. So he'll finish a movie like on a Friday and start another one on Monday. And it was crazy because there's a lot of stuff you got. You know, all the lines he has to memorize, and you know, so he's on fire. He's like super busy. He's launching his new. It's called XFL, right? It's going to counter the NFL, like his new football league. He just bought the XFL. Came out a while ago, but it was not doing well, so he bought that recently. I'm sure he's going to do amazing stuff with it, and he's just because he's an entrepreneur also. Yeah. At heart, he's an actor. He's an awesome actor, but he's also a businessman, entrepreneur. You know, and he works with, you know, his ex Danny is one of his co-producers, and his other co-producer Hiram Johnson. They're awesome. They're awesome.
So how did you? What was the first movie that you worked with him? Like how did you meet him?
Oh, just
like what's your guys' relationship?
Yeah. So the first time I met him, I worked on a movie called Journey to Mysterious Island, where he came to Oahu and shot on Oahu. So we did several, you know, we did some time on Oahu shooting those scenes. And then they did a company move. That means everyone packs up all their gear and moves to the next location, right? So they're doing a company move now we went to Wilmington, North Carolina. And there's a studio there called Screen Gem Studios. So we occupied the back lot there. And so when they did the company move, they go, hey, Kai, we really like you, and we want you to be part of this, so you come with us. So they brought me, Tanawai Reed, of course, he's his stunt double, and then another guy named Charlie. So it was us, like, 3 local boys. Like, you know, it was so fun. We had so much fun there. It was crazy. And so we went and shot the rest. We did most of it in Oahu, the outdoor stuff, and then a lot of the interior scenes to include this 60,000-gallon water tank that they built for a lot of sequences where he's fighting this underwater eel and stuff. We shot that at Screen Gems too, you know. So that was the first time I met him, you know. So we're on set, had some, you know, awesome times with him, and you know, he was talking to me. He's like, yeah, he was telling me about a building he grew up in doesn't exist anymore in Oahu, you know. And they knocked it down. They put the convention center there. He's like, yeah, but that's where you know, when we didn't have a lot of money, that we were living in this building, you know, in near Waikiki, and so that was the first one. The second time
is Dwayne from Hawaii as well?
No, he lived there for a little while. Okay. Like his dad and them, they lived there for a while. But he moved around a lot, you know, when he's growing up. So yeah. I honestly don't know all the places he lived because I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. It's like I don't really know a lot about people's personal lives. It's just
right. It's like it's a working relationship.
Yeah.
But like, so when you were doing the eel scene, so you're doing so now you're doing special effects, or you're still doing digital effects. So because it's the green screen.
Yeah. So I do work in the visual effects side, right? So for example, there's one scene where Dwayne in that movie, Journey to Mysterious Island, there's a scene where Dwayne punches out this giant lizard, right? So what you don't see on camera is me standing there with a 20-foot painter's pole, you know, that extend out so you can paint your house, right? Yeah. A painter's pole with a tennis ball on top. and I'm moving side to side like this. And he's following the eye line of the tennis ball because the tennis ball represents the eye line of the monster.
Mm.
So he's following it, and then he cocks back and he pretends to hit it. Right? He's an actor.
Right.
So in the movie, you see this monster shifting side to side, and he's following it, and then it lunges at him, and he punches it, and knocks it out in the movie. And so that's the part. Like those are the scenes where I'm interacting one-on-one with the actor because I'm doing these. Sometimes I have to dress in like a green suit and I'm holding something or, so I'm kind of interacting with what's going to happen on set and the post-production house, trying to be a liaison between the two. So the way that the scenes are planned, that we shoot those appropriately, kind of like that.
So like, what would you say would be your craziest, visual effect scene that you have to do that, like instead of the pole, were there the most dangerous or the one that's like the really memorable?
Well, I know there's one. So in that movie San Andreas, there was a scene where
so this is a different movie because that was Journey to the.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry. So there's another movie I worked with DJ, and it's called San Andreas. It came out in like 2015.
Yeah.
And it's where this massive earthquake rips California. The San Andreas Fault. There's an earthquake fault there, and it falls in the ocean. These massive waves, right? So it hits San Francisco, and there's a scene where his daughter is trapped underwater, and he jumps off this boat and swims underwater. And rips open this door to rescue her, right? That's kind of the scene. And so we're in this tank for, a long time. We're in wetsuits. We're wearing wetsuits, and they're dumping 60,000 gallons of water into this tank.
60,000 gallons.
Yeah, into this tank. And we're standing there, and we're getting information and measurements, and I'm doing underwater photography, so I have, like, underwater cameras. I have, like, GoPros, because I also have to do what's called witness cameras, and so I have these GoPro cameras set up all over these things to capture the essence of the shot. So when the animator goes in and adds details, they kind of have a visual representation of what's going on. So I've got GoPros all over, and I'm using my iPad.
You basically have to make a movie of making the movie for the people that are like doing post production.
Yeah, and then there's us who are down in the water. Yeah. And this is at the time we're in the Gold Coast of Australia shooting this. So at the time, this time of year it's cold outside.
Why don't you guys film it in California?
So the funny thing about that movie is, although the movie takes place in California, 90% of it was shot in Australia. So movie magic, right? Yeah. Magic. So we shot at this place called it's essentially Warner Studios. Mm-hmm. So Warner Brothers has an asset that's in the Gold Coast of Australia. It's called Movie World. So they have these sound stages. We occupied all their sound stages and shot back there. So
and what's a sound stage?
So a sound stage is that space. It's specially designed.
Like super quiet?
Yeah, because essentially you could, an airplane could fly over and you wouldn't even hear the airplane. So it's like specially soundproof walls, because when you're filming inside of them, you need, because the audio engineer would pick up everything.
Right.
So the studio, a lot of things to mitigate that sound, right? So we occupied all the sound stages, and then we had this tank set up outside, and we're all in this tank shooting this scene over and over. I mean, we're talking about 15, 16-hour days in this tank, And it's so cold, sometimes you're just like shivering. And they had this little boat. It was kind of funny. They'd put hot chocolates on this little boat, and they'd float it to us. Like a hot chocolate boat. We're like freezing, just shivering. And then they had a hot tub outside. So sometimes like, okay, I need a break. You get out, and then you get in the hot tub, and you're just like, because you've been in the water for so long, even though you've got a wetsuit on, you're still just like frozen to the bone, Those are some pretty influential shots.
And how did you end up in Australia, like on doing that movie?
Yeah, so there's an awesome producer I worked for several times. His name's Randy Starr, and I worked with him on another movie. Actually, the original Journey to Mysterious Island. So I worked with him on that movie, and then so a few years later, he called me and said, "Hey, we got a movie. We're gonna be down in Australia. Here's the, you negotiate your rate, you negotiate all your stuff, and then they're like, okay, sign you to the contract, and you're on the movie." So I stayed with them we shot 90% of it in Australia, and then we shot a couple weeks in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area. So we went up there and did some earthquake scenes and so stuff like that.
So and then as you're working with the actors, are you like you guys go out all the time? You guys have a good time? Like
it's fun. Sometimes we have an opportunity where it's mainly like the cast and crew. So a lot of times though, kind of the A-list actors, they don't really they wouldn't go out all the time with us. Sometimes we'd have opportunities where we'd go to their house and have like these little small parties and stuff, but a lot of times they wouldn't, be out on the town partying with the crew, because the crew can get pretty crazy.
So like you at this point now, you've been doing some movies for a while. You're starting to make money. And then like, how did you start getting into start transitioning into the business side?
So
doing something with your money.
Really, what it was over time I just gained this experience, right? And so then producers started sending me essentially budgets and going, hey, can you look this over? We want to award this contract to this post house, but the numbers look kind of weird. Can you look it over? And I was really just vetting those contracts, just from my perspective on, labor and the cost of those things, and going line by line and looking at them, kind of assessing it. And then I realized that there's a certain kind of level of movie that I was like, what, I could probably do this myself or with a small crew, So I actually started an animation company in Hawaii, and it's like there's not a lot of people doing that in Hawaii, So it put me on the radar with the governor of Hawaii. I was able to go with them and this task force. We got together and opened a business office in China, and then when we did that, when they selected individuals to go with the governor, they're like, hey, Kai, we want you because you're going to represent the arts and technology sector.
So this is already like a more advanced. Did you invest in do a little 3-month stint of the surfing side? Is this before or is this after?
No, this is so some of the stuff, like for example in surfing, like when I was back up to when I got that job in Australia, right?
Yeah, the 3-month, like you took a 3-month excursion.
Yeah, during that time, when I took that excursion and I got introduced to guys in Animal Logic and then got the job to Animal Logic to work it, that was when I just went surfing down the South Pacific. So we used to just disappear for months.
So how did you disappear for months working on, like, what happened?
So that's the thing about the film business.
This was before Dwayne's projects? Or
This is before.
This is before, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing about the film business that a lot of people don't realize either, is that it's kind of like they say, it's like feast or famine. You're either working like crazy hours for months at a time, and then there's this lull in between jobs, and sometimes it can be 2 or 3 months between the jobs, where you're just like hanging out. You might do local projects like commercials or music videos or things that take occupy a week or 2 of your time or something. That's when I told you, we kind of were talking earlier, and I mentioned to you, I did it like a Janet Jackson video, Panic at the Disco, Smash Mouth, Mudvayne, all these different bands and music, those are the in-between times, waiting for the next movie start. You're like, I got these skills, let's work on this little side project. So the in-between part is when we just take off. You just you need to disconnect from the world. A lot of my friends, we just grab our surfboards and go to the South Pacific, so you can just live down there for months, just like surfing and hanging out in these little surf villages and enjoying the waves and and just kind of get ready, because then when you go back, you're back in.
Rest and recoup, do the long hours.
Yeah. So that led me to, that experience is what led me to later on starting an animation company, and then getting the business side of it. So now I'm bidding projects, I'm partnering with people, we're doing our own projects. So I'm still going back and forth to LA a lot, but I'm primarily based on Honolulu, is where I live, and then just going back and forth, or wherever the projects would take me. Kind of learning that business side of it.
And you're doing that now?
Right now, I'm doing a lot of different things. Right now I'm doing everything from real estate investment, a lot of investments, technology investment. I'm prepping right now. I've been working on this for almost 5 months now. I'm getting ready to build a virtual soundstage. So it's a pretty hefty investment. Running the numbers and stuff, it's not cheap by no means, but the virtual soundstage is
what does it do? Yeah.
Okay, so for example, if you've ever seen the show Mandalorian, so Mandalorian was shot with this, it's called Unreal Game Engine. It's a company they're a game company, but they also have this product that's it's a virtual like a virtual screen that sits behind the actors.
Mm-hmm.
So the old way was this: you're an actor, and let's say it's a sci-fi movie, and you're supposed to be standing in front of this like sci-fi city, right? The San Francisco in the year 2050 or something, and you're standing in front of it. The old way to do it would be you're standing in front of a green screen, and you look and you're like, wow, that's San Francisco of 2050. And then they take that element and then you take it to the post house. They lift that element off, that becomes the A side. And then you have a matte painter and some digital set extension guys to add the B side.
Yeah.
So they do the composite. They composite you over the top of a digital San Francisco. And then in a few weeks later, you have your first look at it. And you're like, and then the visual effects supervisor's job is to go, looks kind of like what we want, or maybe fix this or fix that, massage this, whatever, and then you have your final asset, maybe 2-3 weeks later, right? The new way to do it is using the Unreal Game Engine. So you digitally project the backdrop of that city.
Is it playing
in camera
in real life?
In camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called in camera. So you're shooting it, the actor's there, and behind
so
the actor,
in real life means in camera.
In camera. Yeah. So the actor, so you actually see the backdrop, and then so now when you're shooting it, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
That is the scene.
Okay.
And it's a little more sophisticated than that. I just kind of made it simple, but because
is it 3D or 2D?
It's a combination. So the digital backdrop is a combination of that. There's actually people building those assets.
So is it like a high resolution screen?
That's all it is.
It's a high resolution screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine if you had
how many frames? Like frames is it going at?
So it's running. It depends on what your film camera is running, right? Sometimes it's 60 frames, sometimes 24, right? It just really depends on the setup.
Well, it has to be faster so that it looks real.
Yeah. So it just depends on how the DP is kind of planning it. That's really the DP's job to like make sure that it's shot the way that you want it to shoot.
Wow,
right?
yeah, that's cool.
But it also is in combination. Sometimes it's on a motion control camera, so you can recreate the move every time digitally. You're controlling the camera move, the speed and the movement of the camera. Also the lights, interactive lights. So let's say in your shot, a spaceship flies over. So you have the lights digitally set up, so it does an animation pass.
So you have the shadow.
The shadow and the light passes you as in camera, it flies past you. So it feels more integrated, where you don't have to take that out to a post house and massage it.
And so what have you worked on, what kind of movies have you worked on that use the digital stage?
None.
Okay.
But I just know that I've had this gift to see things.
So this is new. Is this still visual effects?
It's still visual effects, yeah, okay. But it's not new, right? It's been out for several years now, but it'll be new to our state, the state of Hawaii.
Okay.
And I'm going to put one in Hawaii. That's my plan. So that's what I'm working on right now.
You're almost finished that project?
I'm almost finished with the initial, mainly the planning. Okay, how's this going to work? What's the building going to look like? Are we going to have some? Once the building's up and running.
And then when are you projecting to have ready to go?
That's a good question, because today I was with my mentor / he's doing a lot of stuff for us.
So you still have mentors. You still have things.
Oh, yeah.
Even now, advanced in the game.
Oh no, yeah. I would never think I know everything. Never. I'm always learning. I'm always reading. I'm always watching. Podcasts or watching I like Patrick Bet-David stuff. I like Jocko stuff. So I watch a lot of that stuff and it
Jocko. Jocko. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm very and actually it's funny because I carry a journal with me, and I carry 2 journals with me. It's really strange. So one is my journal of when I'm later in life, I might want to write a memoir, or if I die, someone can read what I've done. That type of journal, like how I felt, what I've done, things I've learned, whatever. And it's that type of journal, And then I also have another journal that I keep 2, and that one is just straight business practices.
Yeah.
What should I do? 5 steps to this, or I tried this and didn't work. What can I do better next time?
I do the same thing.
It's super key as an entrepreneur.
Business, and then just one for daily problems, and then business,
yeah. So I'll tell you, I look at being an entrepreneur like this. It's like a container ship. Those massive container ships. They travel across the ocean with thousands of containers on them, right? I leave from this port and now I'm going to, let's say, Hong Kong, right? So I'm setting my course, right? But along the way, you don't realize it's actually doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
With its small rudder, it's doing these course corrections along the way to finally make it to its destination. That's how I look at like those journals, and I'm always constantly learning. It's like I'm making these course corrections along the way to make it to my goal.
Yeah.
You know, and
then like the fun of it is actually the journey. It's not actually
it's the
getting
journey.
there.
It's not getting there. It's because
as soon as you get there, you start another one.
Yeah. And my motivation isn't financial. People go, oh, you can make a lot of money. Yeah, you can, but that's not why I do it. You know, that's not why I do it at all. You know, it's like I do it. I love that work. You know, if I always tell my friends and family this, and I've told them this for years, but I don't know if people really get it. I'm like, if I had all my bills taken care of, I would just do it for free because I love it that much.
Yeah.
You know, I love I love building businesses. I love taking a plan and putting thought to it, and then not just thought, but then putting your one foot in front of the other and actually executing that plan. Now, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes I've had massive failures. Like sometimes like for example, I'll give you one example. I had a film producer say, hey, we got all this money. Our project got pushed to the right a little bit, but we're going to start in 3 months and we're, good to go. And he started, all this stuff. So I had this film animation company. And I'm like, okay, I just hired all these guys to support your project. Now you push to the right. What do? Do I lay them off? Which would suck, right? Because I just trained all these guys and I hired the right people. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna eat it and keep them on payroll and continue for the next 3 months, and we'll just do little side projects, pro bono jobs, whatever, right? But at the end of that 3 months, that guy his project never went. So I burned all that cash for 3 months. And it's a lot of money, I mean, artists, you're paying them, and you got mouths to feed, right? They have mortgages and everything to pay. You got to take care of them, take care of your people, and then take care of you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want, so I just like investing all this money into like nothing, So you have times like that, It's not always.
It's like a wave.
Yeah.
It's a wave.
Yeah.
Your container ship hits the waves.
Yeah.
Ups and downs.
And you gotta have that tenacity to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Some stuff I learned like way back in the day in Ranger Battalion as a sniper.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward. It's like that, no matter what.
So speaking about entrepreneurs, this sock right here, I don't give a F. It's actually from an entrepreneur that is in LA, started a clothing company, a clothing brand. There she is. She does like interior designing and stuff like that. So like when you bring your teams to LA, pick up on some of that.
Yeah.
And hook a girl up. But that's cool, man. Yeah, like I really enjoy it as well. And I think a lot of other people do. It's just like it's really like you have to go, and like you did. You went from being in the movie business, working in the movie business, then at some point you have to decide like, man, I can do this on my own. Like you talked about, and you make that jump. When you made that jump into the business world, how did that feel? And what was that experience? Do you remember it? Like what? Like receiving your first check?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Company.
Yeah, when you're right, it's awesome. As a business, I like the part where I'm writing checks and I'm signing deals, and then I know that this team behind me, I'm going to pay these guys, or I'm paying, they're going to be able to do what they need to do, and that feels like it's a good feeling, because you got this team, you're paying them, and they can pay their mortgage and all that stuff. That's one. But I'll tell you, when I first got in the business, and I still sometimes come to this, I'm like, there's things that I don't know, and I'm like, okay, I need to do one or two things. One, fail miserably trying something I don't know, or just surround myself with a lot of smart people, So, like for example, I don't know accounting, I don't know taxes, I don't know any of that stuff, and I don't even try to do that, So I'm not a numbers guy. I'm the big idea guy, and I'm the hey team, let's go take that hill guy, and they're gonna follow me all the way, But the actual bean counting and like figuring out how it's actually gonna work, that's not my forte, because I I feel like it slows my process.
So are you? They say that there's like 3 types of people in business. You have the visionary, the organizer, and then the worker bee.
Yeah.
That needs to bring it all together. So, where do you place yourself there?
I would say I'm kind of like I'm very visionary. I have these huge ideas. Sometimes I got some friends that will give me little slices of humble pie, keep me down there.
So then does that mean that you organize?
But I'm more the organizer. That my brain is like, okay, I need to get to this. Here's my goal.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? What are the moves I need to do ahead of time to get to that goal? And if it's going to take this, and this, and this, then I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm really good at is like putting that team together, getting the idea and executing that idea.
And then like how are you learning the new ways of doing business? Like how are you controlling your knowledge management in the future and what you're working on?
So I have one word, being intentional, because I realize that I don't want to learn things always the hard way. Sometimes it's good to learn the hard way. You get a lot of it, but I didn't want to keep going down that road every time.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. So I'm intentional in that I carve out time in my day to focus on learning. I carve it out. I actually have a schedule, and I have time in there that I take. I'm like this 1 hour every day is for learning. Whether sometimes that's just listening to a podcast, sometimes that's reading. Whatever that is that I plug into that hour is going to be to help myself down the road. And I block that time out, and no one can take that time from me. Nobody, So it's important that I do that, because if not, life gets away from me, and next thing you know, I'm like months down the road. I'm like, I don't feel like I've progressed. I don't feel any better than I did a few months ago. I'm making kind of the same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to keep doing the same mistakes. Because, right, what's the definition of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? It's insanity, right?
Wow.
I don't want to live in that insanity. So the only way I can shift gears and change that is by being intentional. And I literally, I do this thing that I read about, like Warren Buffett and a bunch of other guys that, Elon Musk does this too. They do this thing called time boxing, right? So it's not just a to-do list. I get lost in my to-do list. My to-do list would be like 15 pages long.
Time boxing.
Yeah, time boxing. So what I'm doing is I'm writing down, okay, from 6 to 7, I'm doing this. From 7 to 7:15, I'm doing this. Like go make a coffee. Go get make a Keurig coffee. From 7:15 to 7:45, you're doing this. And you're allocating time. It's you're boxing out your time for everything, including breaks.
So you're itemizing pretty much your whole schedule.
My entire schedule for the day. I do that, and it's called time boxing, and I've been so effective. Because before, when I just have this to-do list, I get lost. Because I'd go off on these rabbit trails. I'm like, I do this one thing, and I get kind of lost on this thing and over here, and next thing you know, by the end of the day, I'm like, 15 things didn't get done because I just was all off in la la land, So by time boxing, it helps me focus my time, and I can actually go, okay, this time you're doing this time you're doing this, and I actually have that list next to me, right to the right of my computer. I'm like, okay, it's 8 o'clock, it says time for break. Go out, go for a walk or whatever, time for break. Go hang out with the dogs or whatever. I'm time boxing. And so that's the only way I can efficiently get through my day, but also know that I'm accomplishing everything I need to accomplish for that day. So I've allocated the time to it.
Yeah.
So it sounds funny. It sounds like it sounds hard to do. It's actually not.
Yeah.
And it's really it took me. I'll be honest. So it took me a couple months to get used to it. You're blocking out your time, but it's funny because now I protect that time so much so that someone's like, I got it. We have this thing we gotta do, and blah blah blah. We gotta do, and then
Alexa, turn off.
And then I'll say, I can meet you at this time. That's but I won't shift my schedule.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I won't get the rest of my stuff done, and it's that important to control my time. So that's been helping me, especially the last few years, be way more successful in business.
So now where you are now, where you came from, we got sniper, military, movie, working on a movie crew, and then producing movies. then now business in the movie business and running business movies. Where do you see yourself in the future? What's coming over the horizon?
Yeah, so I want to complete this film or this studio project, finish that, and that'll just be an additional revenue stream, but also a tool that we can add to our state that they don't have. And then also, I want to get into a little bit of philanthropic stuff, like investing in maybe some environmental stuff. And there's a couple farms that I know they're trying to up their game as far as like engineering how they're producing the material in their farm. So just kind of helping out in that way because I want to give back, you know. So that's where I'm looking for those opportunities. I'm consistently, you know, like for example, I met this guy in Nogales, Arizona, which is next to Nogales, Mexico, on the border, and he started he started it's like an art gallery / co-op space, you know. So I'm really interested in learning more about him. I talked to him just today, you know. I just texted by text, but I was just like, give me more information about your business, and maybe there's somewhere I can invest in that to help grow what he's trying to build, because he's building art, he's building music, he's building, you know, it's a really neat.
We're building culture.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Cool. So that's where I'm kind of looking at, like different ways I can use kind of like technology and, you know, some of my investments in regards to that, you know, stay in that philanthropic space, you know.
Well, Kai, I gotta say, man, you're very, very interesting dude. Very interesting dude. You've done a lot. I really enjoyed talking to you and pulling out. Learned a lot about visual effects and the movie business. A lot of things I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I hope that our paths will cross again in the future. Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to? The listeners are probably very. They got a lot of information. They're probably on the hook. Like, is there anything you want to tell them?
Just watch your next episode. Continue to watch this guy's stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. See you next time on the next episode of A Couple of Simple Guys. Write your comments in below. Any questions you want to ask Kai in the future about the movie business. He can break down. He knows a lot of information. Something that anybody in that industry could find out. And if people wanted to find you, how would they do that?
You could. The best way is to email me at aloha@vivaole holdings. I'll have to spell that for you guys.
We'll put it down. We'll put it down in the description.
So it's aloha@vivaoleholdings.com.
Okay, and then social medias and all that other stuff. Like, follow, do your thing. Mahalo.
Aloha.
Aloha.